Om Vakratunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kuru Me Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupini Vidyarambam Garishyami Siddhir Bhavatu Me Sada Gurur Brahma Guru Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahe Tejasvinavadhitamastama Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shri Paramatmane Namaha.
Om Shri Paramatmane Namaha.
Atha Tritiyodhyayah.
Atha Tritiyodhyayah.
Shri Bhagavanuvacha.
Shri Bhagavanuvacha.
Shloka number 33. Sadrusham cheshtate swasyaha.
Sadrusham cheshtate swasyaha.
Prakritirjnanavanapi.
Prakritirjnanavanapi.
Prakritim yanti bhutani.
Prakritim yanti bhutani.
Nigraha kim karishyati.
Nigraha kim karishyati.
Indriyasyendriyasyarthe.
Indriyastarye.
Indriyasyendriyasyarthe.
Indriyasyendriyasyarthe.
Ragadvesho vyavastito.
Ragadvesho vyavastito.
Tayor navashamagachet.
Tayo navashamagachet.
Tau hyasya paripantino.
Tau hyasya paripantino.
Bhutani prakritim yanti. Nigraha kim karishyati. Nigraha kimapi kartum na shaknoti. Restraint cannot do anything. By control, you cannot change it. Sabhava cannot be changed. Sabhava cannot be changed. Then there is no hope. Everything happens in keeping with one Sabhava. Sabhava is decided by previous samskara. So everything is now determined by karma. Happens as I had done before. Now, Raga Dvesha is with regard to each and every sense object. Over that Raga Dvesha, you can have some control. Raga Dvesha Vyavastito. Raga Dveshas invariably are there with regard to every sense object. Liking for certain things, dislike for certain things. You don't come under the influence of that. Keep the Raga Dvesha influencing your action. Keep the Raga Dvesha away from, or prevent it from influencing your action. Raga Dvesha is Vyavastito. It is there. Tayor Navasham Agache. Don't come under the influence of them. because they are your paripantina. Paripantin means enemies. Raga dveshas are the enemies. Raga for desirable things, dvesha for undesirable things. So they are the enemies. So tayoho vasham na agachet. May you not come under the sway of raga dvesha. So swabhava cannot be changed, but raga don't come under the influence of raga dvesha. It means, oh, raga dvesha you have control. So swabhava being what it is, swabhava will be there, but raga dvesha can be kept under check. So because raga dvesha only influence your pravritti, your actions. Though your swabhava is already, it is formed because of a previous action. Now further that the swabhava manifesting through action based on raga dvesha. That raga dvesha, since you have control on raga dvesha, therefore indirectly you can influence, indirectly you can keep in check also the swabhava from manifesting in your action. So if raga dvesha is, then if the raga dvesha is kept in check, then whatever may be the swabhava, let the swabhava be there. The swabhava cannot do any harm then. Because swabhava being what it is, how does it manifest? It manifests in the form of action. Actions are influenced by one's raga dvesha. So raga dvesha, if it is controlled, then swabhava is as though it is as if that is also, it is kept in check. You cannot change it. You cannot remove it. That is what nigraha karishyati. You cannot completely destroy erase the swabhava. It is already formed. That is what nigraha karishyati. You cannot change it. That is what he says. Not that because you cannot change the swabhava, therefore everything is predestined. That is not said. It is not the meaning here. Swabhava cannot be changed. It's a fact. How can the swabhava be changed? Swabhava cannot be changed. Swabhava is nothing but the result of the repeated action, the habit. It is habit alone. Habit alone no, makes a person act in a particular way, repeated. That is repeated action creates habit, and habit determines the character. So that is becomes the personality of the person. So that prakriti, the swabhava, cannot be changed. Swabhava, it is as it is, the swabhava be as it is. So what? But raga dvesha, that influence your pravritti. Your pravritti is determined by, influenced by raga dvesha. Therefore, don't come under the influence of this raga dvesha and act in keeping with your prakriti. Jnanis also act in keeping with the swabhava. But jnanis, they don't do adharma. They are naturally dharmika because they don't have raga dvesha. Similarly, if you also don't come under the influence of raga dvesha, so therefore you also like jnani. If not like jnani, at least you will not be causing any discomfort to anyone. So that is the idea. So therefore, swabhava cannot be changed. Swabhava cannot be removed. Swabhava, what it is, already it is done. It is formed. But raga dvesha, over that you have control. Therefore only they are teaching, therefore only karma yoga, etc. All these things are otherwise not possible. Right. Therefore, the idea is that. Okay. So don't come under the influence of raga dvesha. Tayona vasham agachet, because they are your paripanti, they are your enemies. In the previous shloka, Krishna said everyone acts in accordance with their own nature, sabhava. So one expresses one nature. That is what I said. One expresses one nature in terms of ragas and dveshas, over which no control is possible. In the second line, now in the present shloka, the second line, free will is brought in. Don't come under the influence of raga and dvesha, of these two likes and dislikes. Tayorna Ashamagachet. Since Swabhava is expressed to raga dvesha, Swabhava cannot be changed, but raga dvesha can be kept under check. So that is why he said here. With regard to changing the Swabhava, you don't have free will, you cannot do it, you cannot change it. But with regard to raga dvesha, through which the Swabhava expresses, over that control is possible. That is why the teaching. That is why the Dharma Shastra, the Karma Yoga, etc. Karma Yoga is said, Ishwararpanam Karma Kuru. Ishwararpanam Buddhya Karma Kuru. Even in the beginning, Bhagavan said, Karma, that Karma Yoga should be done, Karma should be done. Tasmadidyasva iti. So, therefore, free will is there. Free will. Free will is said in the second line. Tayorna vasham agache. If free will is not there, if free will over ragadvesha is not there, if you are completely under the influence of ragadvesha all the time, over which if you don't have any control, then tayorna vasham agache, the statement cannot be. So that therefore, that's why I said that next shloka also to be read immediately after that. Prakritim yanti bhutani nigraha kim karishyati indriyasya indriyasyate ragadvesho vyavastito tayorna vasham na agache. Tayorna vasham na agache. So ragadvesha are nothing but through which the swabhava is expressed. Swabhava cannot be changed, but ragadvesha can be controlled, can be nullified. That is why can be nullified means can be not completely, can be nullified to a greater extent. Ragadvesha. When you are the dharmika purusha, so when you by karma yoga, by following dharma shastra, when you from being a the prakrita, you become a samskrita purusha. Once you become a dharmika, you follow dharma, you keep aside your ragadvesha and you do what ought to be done. So free will is there. In spite of your raga, likes, in spite of your dvesha, even though the action over which you have your raga or dvesha, you like doing something, sometimes you may not like doing something, but it is your karma, but still you do it because it is to be done. So not influenced by dvesha for the karma, similarly not influenced by raga for that action, karma, the duty, bound by karma, duty bound, not bound, duty, kartavyam karma. With that spirit you do the karma, therefore free will is there. Karma means free will is there. Karma influenced by ragadvesha, and over the ragadvesha you have free will. Therefore, in doing you have free will, that is why karma yoga. So tayona vashama agachet. By saying this, free will is mentioned. Tayona vashama agachet. May you not come under the spell of ragadvesha. Every pravritti of a human being is influenced by this raga and dvesha. You do what you like. You refrain from doing what you don't like. This is general. This is prakrita. This is the swabhava of the prakrita purusha. But when you become a samskrita purusha, a refined person, even though everybody likes doing what one likes it. But even though you may like it, but it is not to be done, then what you do, don't do it. You refrain from doing it. Even though like is there, you have done before, but now you don't do it. So it means free will is there. Similarly, even though certain things you don't want to do it, but it should be done because it is your dharma, you do it. Like Arjuna, he doesn't want to fight, but Krishna insists him in fighting the battle. So keep aside your raga dvesha. Fight because it is ought to be done. The free will is there or not? Is there? Free will is there. That is why he is asking Upadesha also. Otherwise, the whole teaching is useless. So the whole teaching is about not acting in accordance with your raga dvesha, but acting in accordance with what ought to be done. Dharma. So therefore, over Prakriti, you don't have any say. You cannot change. That is how it is. Prakriti will let the Prakriti be what it is. But let not the Prakriti be expressed of Raga Dvesha, which are not conducive for your spiritual growth. Over Raga Dvesha, you have control, you have say. Therefore, don't come under the influence. That is the teaching. This teaching is not understood. That's why most of the people get confused. Saying that every being acts in accordance with Prakriti. Therefore, no control is possible. No control is possible at the same time teaching. It's a contradictory. Anyway, we don't have contradictions, very clear. The very teaching implies there is free will. If free will is not there, then why should the Shastra teach us? Kartavyam, do's and don'ts. Satyam vada, dharmam chara. As we saw, Kalanjyam, na bhakshayet, suram na pibet, andratam na vaktavyam. All this Upadesha, the commandments are useless. The free will is there. If these Upadeshas are not there, Dharma Shastras are not there, then if no Shastras are there, then the Prakrita Purusha, as he was born with the tendencies, he will be acting in keeping with the Swabhava, influenced by Ragadvesha. Ragadveshas are in keeping with the Swabhava, therefore he will be acting as he likes. That's why it's called barbarian. Prakrita means unrefined person. Prakrita Purusha. By samskaras, it becomes a Samskrita Purusha. By the Jata Karma, there are many samskaras. Even Upanayanam is a samskara, important samskara. By all this, the person, the Prakrita Purusha becomes a Samskrita Purusha, refined person. In fact, the Upanayanam, the idea of Upanayanam is to have mastery over this Ragadvesha. Let not you act in keeping with your Swabhava, whatever will be the Swabhava. Let not act in keeping with your Ragadvesha. Whatever will be Swabhava, let it be. It is there, Swabhava. But let you not be influenced by the Ragadvesha. So that is the important teaching here. Okay, then the next logic of the mind. The mind behaves according to its own logic. It is meaningless to tell someone not to entertain a particular thought. The more the person tries not to have this thought, the more he or she will have it. Ramana Maharshi used to, once he said, that somebody complained about meditation. He said, don't think of monkey when you meditate. That is the only Upadesha. Don't think of monkey. So when the person sat for meditation, he had only thoughts of monkey, different monkeys. He said, no, except monkey, but only thoughts of monkeys. Different monkeys came in his meditation. That is, the more you try to avoid, you want to prevent that particular thought, that alone will come. The mind will be obsessed with that thought. That thought becomes the object of meditation. Therefore, the more the person tries not to have his thought, you don't have free will over that. It will come. You don't have free will not to think of monkey. You already decided not to think of monkey, then monkey thought only will come. So, what thought, next thought will come, we don't know. Next thought comes when we sit for meditation, the next thought is not determined by our free will. We cannot decide what thought should come. That is why the abhyasa, that is why there's a technique. There's a technique, the japa. In japa, what you do, you deliberately create a thought. You deliberately create a thought. You are influencing the natural flow of thoughts by your deliberation. You deliberately chant the mantra and you, instead of other thoughts arising, you deliberately make the thoughts of the mantra arise repeatedly. So this is having, this is regulating the thoughts. So what thought will come next? We don't know. We cannot say. We don't have free will. But in the japa, you deliberately create thoughts, deliberately creating thoughts, and that is repeatedly it is created so that the mind doesn't wander here and there. Therefore, it's a technique to focus the mind. So that is why japa. Therefore, therefore, the more the person tries not to have a particular thought, the more the person will have it. In fact, it will even become an obsession, a fixation. If you try to avoid anything in the name of avoiding it, it is necessarily right there in your mind. So that is a wrong thing to be done. You should never try to avoid. That is why even in prayer also, we pray, we should not pray using negative terms. We should not use nunch. I don't want sickness. That is not a right prayer. I want to be healthy. I don't want to be ignorant. No, I want knowledge. That is a prayer. I want health. I want to be healthy. I don't want to be defeated. No, that is not the prayer. I want to be victorious. So the prayer should be a positive prayer, not using any negative words. That's an interesting thing. Swamiji never uses disciple a name which has the negative particulate. He never gives like the name like Niranjanananda or Abhayananda. That Abhaya, Nabhaya is negative. Why should you use Bhaya and then negate it? Similarly, why should you use Anjana? Anjana means stain and then negate it. So similarly, why should you use Anamayananda? Amaya means sickness. Anamaya is health. Amaya, na Amaya, na. All these are the negative. Therefore, Swamiji will never use such names for sannyasis. Only positive names. So therefore, because when you see that when you in the name, the negative is there. So that has more impact on the mind. That is why the naming also is always should positively. Can give a positive name. I mean, that is no lunch particle, negative in the name. Then it is repeatedly called. That goes to the subconscious. So that is the idea. So that's all how this is how the mind works. So therefore, if you try to avoid anything in the name of avoiding it, it is necessarily right there in your mind. For example, if I tell a man when he chants a particular mantra, he should not think of a monkey. What will happen? Because he wants to follow my advice before chanting the mantra, he will remember my advice. Don't think of a monkey. In order to avoid thinking of a monkey, he must think of the very thing he is avoid. Monkey. And after some time, he will not just see one monkey, he will see all the varieties of monkey he has seen in his life. So that will be monkey meditation. If I ask you to think of a monkey, only one monkey will come to mind. One that has previously created an impact on your mind. One person may think of a rhesus monkey or an Indian monkey. Another may think of a chimpanzee or of King Kong. In any event, only one monkey will come to mind. However, if you want to avoid the thought of this particular monkey, you would find any number of monkeys coming one by one, starting with your own monkey, followed by a rhesus monkey, then a chimpanzee, gorilla, King Kong, rat monkeys, and variety of African monkeys. They all will come one by one, all because you want to avoid thinking about a monkey. So this is a wrong thing to do with the mind. Always mind doesn't know the negative. It just takes that. Monkey only it knows. I don't want a monkey. I don't want to think of monkey. The monkey only the mind will take. Don't want, the mind doesn't know. So that is why always the instruction, the instruction, what give to the mind should be positive. The advice also should be positive. Satyam vada, speak the truth. Dharmam chara, follow dharma. To tell someone not to think of a particular object is meaningless because we don't have free will over that. Where free will comes in. The statement "do not come under the spell" tayo vasham na agachet implies your free will. Will is there. Problems always arise when we try to avoid the thoughts themselves. Some people spend their lifetime trying to avoid certain thoughts because we are told that some thoughts are not good, some thoughts are good, and some others are bad. In the process, they remain stuck with the very thoughts they are trying to avoid. In fact, these thoughts have nothing to do with you. They have only to do with Prakriti. This is what Prakriti Myanti Bhutani Nigraha Kim Karishyati. Our thoughts. Svabhava, means there is Prakriti, meaning it is nature. Nature is thoughts. The thoughts, how do you avoid these thoughts? The thoughts cannot be avoided. These are the thoughts these are the thoughts you have already put in the mind. Therefore, that alone will come, over which you don't have any say, no control over the thoughts. Thoughts cannot be suppressed, thoughts cannot be completely nullified, but thoughts will come. So therefore, what thoughts will come next? That we cannot say. Even Bhagavan cannot say what thoughts will come. But what can you do about thoughts? If a commoner happens to see a princess and develops a raga, a desire for her, what is he to do? Because of his status, he cannot even enter the palace. And yet he has great love for the princess. He can love her, all right, but he can hardly proceed on that love. But what control you have liking a person? That seeing the person you like, over that you don't have control, but you cannot proceed further. Nor should you have any control. In fact, you should leave it alone. The thought of love comes. We cannot exercise that love here. Not possible. The poor man cannot exercise his love on the princess. The thought comes. Therefore, you should leave it alone because if you try to control it, you will be in trouble. You will be meddling with your mind. And when you rub against your mind, you rub against nature. Svabhava, Prakriti. Rubbing against your mind is rubbing against your nature. Mind is, therefore, Prakriti is nature, that is mind. Your Svabhava is determined by your Svabhava, the nature. Is determined by the thoughts and the thoughts which are converted into the actions. Every thought cannot be put into action. But what thoughts you put into action, that determines the nature. Therefore, we don't put all thoughts into action. In fact, we filter. But what you filter, what you accept, that is important. If you are a dharmika person, naturally you will filter all the undesirable, illegitimate, inappropriate thoughts converting into action. So if you are a dharmika, if you are viveki, that's why viveka. So therefore, when you rub against your mind, you rub against nature. In this process, you get rubbed. Therefore, you cannot avoid having certain thoughts. Impossible. Prakriti myanti bhutani nigraha kim karishatu. That is what is meaning here. Over thoughts, you don't have control, but over raga dvesha, acting upon the raga dvesha, you have free will, you have control. Some of our modern spiritual literature is replete with statements declaring that you should avoid having certain thoughts. Swami always insists, don't use such statements. You should avoid. Should avoid is always a problem. Should avoid eating to avoid eating certain dishes. Avoid eating this. Avoid. When advice is given for a diabetic person, patient, avoid eating. Should avoid. That is not. You should encourage and telling, eat the positive. Eat those things. which are fresh, eat which are good for your health, instead of saying avoid. You should avoid you having certain thoughts. So avoidance is the word itself is a problem. Our modern literatures replete with statements you should avoid certain thoughts. There are so many do's and don'ts that a seeker becomes nothing but a pack of nerves. Prior to becoming a seeking, the person was much more acceptable to himself or herself. Now, after reading so many books, the person finds so much garbage in his or her mind. Because moksha is beyond all concepts of good and bad, beyond concepts themselves. Cultivating and avoiding good and bad thoughts becomes meaningless. All thought is prakriti. This is a really a practical problem for all the spiritual seekers. Thoughts come, good or bad. When the bad thought comes, then the person feels dejected because the thought arises. Thoughts come and thoughts go. So it is natural. So that doesn't determine you also. It comes and goes. The thought is not you. The object of thought is the object of your consciousness. Consciousness is you, not the thought. The thought comes maybe because of the past, the habit. So it has, but now you are a mumukshu, you are a seeker. So then the thoughts come. So what? So therefore, the thoughts are prakriti. Thoughts are prakriti. Good thoughts come, bad thoughts come, over which we don't have any say. It comes. But identifying the thought and taking oneself to be oneself to be a lowly person or mean person, that is not proper. And adding to that, there are a lot of instructions and advices. Such thoughts are dangerous. Should avoid certain thoughts. How can I avoid certain thoughts? The thoughts doesn't obey my command. It comes. I don't have any say. The thoughts come. How am I going to restrict the thoughts occurring? If I restrict, like a monkey, it will appear more and more and more. Let it come. Let it come and go. So you just become a conduit, a pipe. So that thoughts enter and thoughts leave you. Doesn't make any impact on you. The moment you hold on to the thought, it will have a tremendous impact on the person. So let the thought come and go. Let you be unattacked by the thoughts, unattached and unattacked. So, therefore, how is your will involved here? Will is not to determine what you should and should not think. What you should, that is also what you should think. Will is not there. What you should not think, will is not there. That is why the japa is a technique by which we deliberately trying to create similar thoughts, a particular thought. So, because japa is for focus, japa is for is for concentration, for bringing the mind to mind for bringing the mind, for focusing the mind on a particular thing. So japa helps for achieving concentration. Of course, it is a prayer also. It's as a spiritual sadhana. It has its benefits. In addition to that, the focus, the concentration, upasana. That is why upasanaya chitta naischalyam. Chitta naischalyam, one-pointedness, focus, chitta samadhana, relatively is gained. That is required for Shravan. Therefore, upasana, that the japa. So, will is not there to determine what you should think and what you should not think. But how far you should go with the thoughts that arise? How far? Your activities are not caused by the likes and dislikes appearing in your mind, but your identification with them. Yes, but your identification with them. When you become the thought, when you identify with the thought, then you become the executor of the thought. You become the executor of the thought by your deeds. Then that becomes a problem. Because you are identified with your raga dvesha, you go along with them. You being the will goes along with them. The commoner who discovered a love for the princess just leaves his raga alone. He is an intelligent man. That is, if he's a Viveki who has discrimination, Viveki. If he's not a Viveki, he will go along with this raga and gets beaten up in the process. Therefore, allow the raga dveshas to be what they are. The mind is a beautiful instrument as long as you let it think and don't meddle with it. So, otherwise, you will be in problems. You will be in for problems. It takes very little time to become insane. What is being said here is, while you can go by your likes and dislikes, see, understanding this when it's very important. It gives a lot of freedom. At least the thoughts come and go over which I have no free will. But putting the thoughts into action, it's under my control. That gives a lot of freedom. So you accept all thoughts. So that gives certain freedom. So you are not the only person. It is universal. So I'm not alone. Everybody else the same. So accepting whatever comes, the thoughts come and go. Don't restrict it. So that gives certain happiness, certain comfort. You are happy with you are if you feel comfort with your upadi, with your mind. You don't feel discomfort. Let it come, let it go. So what? I'm not influenced by it. What is being said here is, while you can go by your likes and dislikes, you should make use of your free will to do what is right and avoid doing what is wrong. Therefore, dharma, adharma, viveka is important. That is why Dharma Shastra is there. Dharma Shastra teaches what to do, what should not do. So what you should do, if it is in keeping with your raga, then there is no problem. But if you what you should do is, if you don't like, then also you must do, because it is to be done. That is why the viveka is required. That viveka is required by, because it is ought to be done. Therefore, you cannot avoid. You should do, even though you don't like. That is what is yoga, karma yoga. Karma yoga is not doing what we like. Karma yoga is doing what ought to be done in spite of your raga dvesha. So not influenced by raga dvesha. So this is what is karma yoga. So therefore, don't come under the spell of raga dveshas. Therefore, karma yoga is for what? For neutralizing, for having certain command over raga dvesha. Previously, raga dvesha dictated you. Now you will dictate. You will not be influenced by. You will not influence by raga dvesha. So raga dvesha will become weak if you are karma yogi. That is the idea of karma yoga also. Raga dvesha, they are neutralized. Because this your free will, you exercise your free will, you make use of your free will and make the raga dvesha incapacitated, almost. Not complete. You cannot remove raga dvesha. Raga dvesha will be there, but make it incapacitated. So don't come under the spell of your raga dvesha. Because if you do, they become enemies for you. The raga dveshas themselves don't form the enemies. If it is your coming under the spell that turns into your foes, enemies. When you are under the spell of your raga dvesha, you don't do what is to be done. You do what is not to be done. In this way, raga dvesha becomes obstacle for you. That is why paripantina. Paripanti means enemies or obstacles. Obstacles for moksha marga. Obstacles, it becomes obstacle to become free. This means that likes and dislikes are those into whose hands you deliver yourself. It is this raga dvesha that become your obstacles. Such likes and dislikes become binding and therefore enemies. Paripanti, paripantin, paripantinau, because raga and dvesha, it's a dvandva, therefore paripantinau. Because they rob away your reason, therefore they are paripanti, enemies, thieves. They are likened to thieves because it steals away your viveka. Therefore, only said be a viveki. Viveka is important. Dharma, viveka, when it comes to doing, and when it comes to the truth, nitya, anitya, viveka. So, therefore, because raga dvesha rob away your reason, they are likened to thieves and become your enemies. Tau, sagatau, tau hi asya, asya. Asya is, that is for the one who is acting in keeping with swabhava, for him, paripantinau. Or for the person, for the mumukshu, it becomes the paripanti, paripantinau. it becomes enemies. Therefore, without worrying about what happens in the mind, simply go by what is to be done and not to be done. It's a great message. That is what Bhagavan Krishna says. The meaning of the shloka is, don't worry about what the mind thinks. Irrespective of whatever the mind thinks, mind entertains, do what is to be done. Avoid what should not be done. Be a dharmika. Be a dharmika purusha. Apply your viveka, apply your buddhi, viveka, and do what is to be done in keeping with your varna, ashrama, your vyavastha, whatever the situation, and avoid doing what should not be done. So doing what to be done, avoiding what to be done is being in alignment with the order. Therefore, you become a yogi, karma yogi. So raga dveshas will have less influence or no influence. You become free. That is what neutralization of raga dvesha. That's what karma yoga makes a person. Next shloka, where the next shloka, where the change of one's duty, one has free will. Therefore, one can change one's duty, one karma, swadharma. That is, no, that should not be done. That is advice given. We will see that in the next class. This also advice in keeping with what Arjuna had told in the first chapter. So that all the objections for fighting the war which Arjuna had raised in the first chapter, all these are being answered at different occasions. The third chapter, it is answered now. Certain objections which Arjuna raised, that is answered here. We'll read at the next class. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.
धन्यवादः.
Dhanyavadaha.